Welcome to Central Church's online devotional ministry. These short devotions are intended to provide inspiration and hope to all people, including our friends, neighbors, and church members. We hope that you find them both meaningful and helpful as you search for spiritual food. It's our prayer that you discover new ways to serve Christ and be about His work in the world.
I heard the bells on Christmas Day, their old familiar carols play, and wild and sweet the words repeat, of peace on earth, goodwill to men. You may be familiar with these words as a song that we hear at Christmas time. You may know it as a poem, and just this Christmas a movie was released titled I Heard the Bells. And it is the story of how this poem was written. That was verse 1 of a poem written in 1863 by the American poet Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, a poet of the 1800s. He was a famous and popular American poet, also author of The Ride of Paul Revere, Evangeline, and the Song of Hiawatha. We'll continue with verses 2 and 3 of this poem. And thought how, as the day had come, the belfries of all Christendom had rolled along the unbroken song of peace on earth, goodwill to men, till ringing, singing on its way, the world revolved from night to day, a voice, a chime, a chant sublime of peace on earth, goodwill to men. That's the first 3 verses of the poem. Then the next verses take a darker tone, starting with verse 4. Then from each accursed mouth the cannon thundered in the south, and with the sound the carols drowned of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Departing a minute again from the poem. The poem was written in 1863. If we think about the United States in the year 1863, we think of the Civil War, which was a terrible time of suffering. Longfellow had been feeling the loss of his wife 2 years earlier in 1861. She died from injuries when her clothes caught fire, and Longfellow was injured trying to save her. On a personal note, we have a family story of my mother's aunt who was holding her newborn baby near the fireplace when her clothes caught fire. She threw the baby to safety, but she died of her injuries. So it must have been a time when clothes were much more flammable than they were, and fireplaces were more common. So back to the year 1863, Longfellow was still suffering from the loss of his wife, and in that year his son Charles enlisted in the Union Army, which was against Longfellow's wishes. And his son Charles was severely injured in the Battle of Mine Run, a name that is not familiar to me or maybe to many of us. Longfellow was feeling the despair of a nation divided in war, and his spirit was broken. Verse 5. And in despair I bowed my head. There is no peace on earth, I said, for hate is strong and mocks the song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Longfellow's, what happened to him is exactly as described in his poem. He was feeling the despair of the Civil War, and on Christmas Day he heard the church bells ringing out with their beautiful, deep tones, a sound which would have been familiar to our ancestors, though not a part of our modern day life. So Longfellow continues the poem in verse 6. Then pealed the bells more loud and deep, God is not dead, nor doth he sleep. The wrong shall fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill to men. Now we are in the year 2022. We can search these things on YouTube. You can find a trailer to the movie, I Heard the Bells. You can also hear different versions of the poem set to music. It was made popular in 1956 by singer Bing Crosby, and many other versions have been produced. And currently, there is a very fine version by a group called Casting Crowns, which you can find on YouTube. So let's look again at the last verse of Longfellow's poem. Then pealed the bells more loud and deep, God is not dead, nor doth he sleep. The wrong shall fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill to men. So Christmas 2022, we have times of despair, but we look for hope in a dark world. As we are told in the Bible, the people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. May you search for that light and find light and hope in Christmas 2022.
We invite you to visit our church website at cpctaranum.org to learn more about our ministries. You can also visit us on Facebook at Central Presbyterian Church Taranum. Please join us as we renew lives, inspire hope, and serve others. God bless you.